Hi, this is Gene. Today is the Wednesday, July 21st, peer coaching session for the published author masterclass. So a couple people messaged me today that they weren't going to be able to attend. And so what I'm going to do for today's session um, is we're going to do a walkthrough of how to align your social media to help support the marketing efforts for your book. Okay, so one of the things, I mean, this is what Josh talks about in some of the information that he's providing. But what I want to do is I wanted to give you a video walkthrough of how I've implemented branding myself and also how I've tried to be as consistent as possible through all my social media channels as I'm leading up to the launch of my book. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share screens. I'll share this screen. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you uh, all of my social media channels and how I'm using social media to help build an audience for my book. Okay, so one of the things, if you're kind of new to social media marketing, is you don't want to use all of the social media channels. You should really pick one. In fact, you should probably pick the one where you believe most of your ideal readers or ideal prospects, where they congregate is the term that is often used. And for me, since I'm targeting more business people, most of my target readers and target clients will be on LinkedIn. So I want to make sure my LinkedIn profile reflects the brand that I want to project and the book that I want to write. Okay, so if you go to here, you can see even in this view of my LinkedIn profile where it's just looking at posts, you can see that my podcast, which is called the China Myth Podcast, can appear in this little banner. And my name is here. And my title is basically the title of my podcast, China Myth Podcast, and author, Solving China's Unknown Unknowns, and then speaker, trainer, China business advisor. So this is who I want people to know me as. Right now, because I'm launching a podcast, I want people to know that I'm a podcaster, and the title of the podcast is the China Myth Podcast, which actually launches today. Now, when you go to this view of my LinkedIn profile, when people click on me, they've seen me comment on a post, they want to see who I am, this is what they get. They get China Myth Podcast, and here they also get Kindle Vella stories and lessons. So each podcast that I have is also published to Kindle Vella to try to create a separate audience of readers. All right. And a little tagline here, probably it should change the font, but it's to demystify the Chinese why, to create new communication patterns. So that's basically what I try to help my listeners do. Change their outcomes, improve their success by understanding how Chinese people think and how to create new interaction and communication patterns. Okay, so when people go to my profile, they see my image, they see kind of what I want to be known as, and as they scroll down, they can see my featured items. Okay, so my featured items, if you click here, this will open up the page for Kindle Vella. Okay, so this is where people can start reading my short stories. Okay, so this is the page that I've been to. So I'm already on episode 2, but you would be able to subscribe and start reading these directly from my LinkedIn. If you clicked on this one, the second featured item, so only 2 featured items show up on the desktop version. They would actually have to advance this arrow to see what else you have. But so the first 2 are the most important. If they click this one, it opens up this actually opens up a blog page that is talking about my podcast. All right. So this is what people were going to go to before today, because now the podcast is launched. All right. So this is my LinkedIn page. It has my activities, but basically this is what people look at. All right. And then I'm showing you here is now when I start making comments on posts, this is also very interesting or very important, is that when you make a comment on a post, it's also promoting the China Myth podcast, which is what I'm trying to promote right now. And also, it identifies me as author of Solving China's Unknown Unknowns. So everything fits here when I make a comment on any post. All right, my name, author, China Myth podcast, and author of Solving China's Unknown Unknowns. So this is my LinkedIn profile. Okay, I also do a little bit on Facebook. All right, so this is my Facebook page. All right, so again, the same tagline: demystify the Chinese why to create new communication patterns. And very simple: China Myth podcast, Kindle Vella stories and lessons. All right. This is a LinkedIn group that I run for my online course. I've launched an online program called Solving China's Unknown Unknowns, which is also the title of my book. And of course, this is the community to debunk China myths and create winning communication patterns. China Myth podcast launches. So I update this, when there's different things to broadcast on this. I have 170 members in here, but I just want to show that there's kind of consistency in the branding. So this China myths is basically the same kind of font with the Chinese flag and the American flag that I use in everything. All right. So again, here's the LinkedIn profile: China Myth podcast, China Myth podcast, China Myths. This is the Facebook group. Now, when you get to Kindle Vella, this is what they see. They see China Myth. Now, I'm publishing China Myth is kind of like the logo now for my Amazon profile. But this series of short stories, which is the first season of the China Myth podcast, is called The Chinese Honeymoon Period. Okay, so you can see that I've already got 6 episodes published. You get to read the first 3 episodes for free. I think you get 200 free tokens. I've already unlocked the 4th episode, but you would have to use additional tokens to read beyond the 3rd episode. And this is how Amazon makes money, and this is how you as a writer make money. If people read beyond the 3rd episode, then you get some micro commission. All right. So let's see. Continuing, this is my Amazon page. So right now I have 2 workbooks that are kind of in paperback that you can buy: Solving China's Unknown Unknowns. That's actually going to be the book that I'm ultimately going to write. But right now it's the title of my online program. So trying to be consistent. This is another publication: Do's and Don'ts for Winning Negotiations in China. So let's continue on here. So here is the YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is also branded exactly the same: China Myth podcast, Kindle Vella stories and lessons. And the video that people first go to is basically my introduction video. Okay, so I'm not going to play this entire thing, but this is 1 hour. I'm sorry, it's 1 minute and 40 seconds. And it's basically, it takes the tagline: why China frustrates us when it shouldn't, China Myth podcast. And basically this short video introduces what I do, which is I'm trying to get people to subscribe to the China Myth podcast. And that has a certain purpose that's related to my business, and it's related to my book. All right, now this is where I upload all my podcasts. It's a platform called Buzzsprout. So you can actually listen to all the podcasts directly on Buzzsprout, or you can go directly to where you want to listen to your favorite podcast. All right, so you can go to Apple Podcasts, you can Spotify, Google Podcasts, more. So whenever I publish once on Buzzsprout, it automatically goes to all of these other podcasts. And I think you can even set up more. But these are the ones that I've done so far. So again, it's the same branding here: China Myth. All right. And this is the Apple Podcast preview. So when you go to Apple Podcasts, you get the same the same brand, and it's the same brand across all the social media channels. Again, episode 1, season 1, episode 1 of the China Myth podcast just released today. Okay, so if you click that, you can listen on Apple Podcast, open Apple Podcasts. And so this is listening on Apple Podcasts. Let me, it's updating the library. All right, so you can see, again, same logo, season 1, episode 1, and then here, the description in Apple Podcasts. Okay, so somebody is coming on. Hi, Eric. Eric, hi, this is Gene for the peer coaching session. Do you want to unmute yourself and share your video? So let me stop the share screen. Sorry. All right. Hi, Eric. Do you want to unmute yourself? Ask to unmute and share your video. Okay, I think I can start to hear you.
I got a little bit difficulty here.
All right, I can hear you. Yeah, since nobody had signed on, I was actually doing a walkthrough of how to brand your social media around the book that you're going to write. So, thank you for joining. Are you able to share your video also so we can see each other?
Well, I'm trying. I can't get on here with my phone here. There's something wrong with this. I guess I have to restart all over again. Jeez.
Well, I don't mind not seeing you. So if you want, we can just talk like this, and or if you want to try to log back in, that's fine too.
Yeah, let me start from scratch.
Okay.
Okay. How is that?
I can hear you. Your video is still, there we go.
Finally.
Finally. Okay, Eric, so this is the first time you've joined one of these peer coaching sessions.
Yeah.
I want to say welcome. The other 2 people that normally join these sessions, Sue and Barry, they both messaged me and said they actually had something come up today, so they couldn't join. So I was actually doing a walkthrough, but I'm so happy that you're here. Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and the book you're writing, and then happy to hear any challenges that you have.
Well, I'm about 75% completed with my first book. Originally, let me back up a little bit. Originally, I thought I was going to put 4 big chapters in one book. But after thinking about it and started writing about it, collecting stuff and doing research, I came to the conclusion it's much better to break the book apart. Instead of 400 pages, make 4 books, each 100 pages. Because they are related, but I think it's also a better deal for the reader. Because if a reader takes a book for 100 pages, it's a lot easier to digest and easy to read on, let's say, on a 2-hour plane ride, versus a big book, 400 some pages that not too many people want to read. So I changed the strategy. So the first book, I'm about 75% finished.
Okay. So that means you have about 75 pages.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the title of your first book and what is your area of expertise?
Well, the first book talks about KPIs, key performance indicators.
Okay.
Why is it necessary? Why is it beneficial to leaders in business or anybody else in a business? But it's, the main part of the book has a collection of over 200 KPIs. So it's an assortment of various KPIs that people can pick and choose, copy and paste almost, ready to implement, something very easy to take home and implement it right away.
Okay. So your target audience is obviously managers, business leaders,
Yeah,
and consultants.
yeah,
Okay. And I assume you yourself was a leader and or a consultant.
yeah, all of the above.
All of the above. Okay. And do you have a title for your first book?
Well, I'm not quite sure yet, but it has to have something with KPI in it. But the original title for the entire book was going to be called Accelerating Your Success. And I'm thinking about keeping that title for each one of those 4 books, but with a subtitle that's tailored to the contents of that particular each individual book. What do you think?
Accelerating your success, well, that's a good idea. If you like accelerating your success, it's a good idea to have the subtitle for each kind of category of how you accelerate your success, whether it's through
Yeah,
KPIs or whether it's through whatever else it is you want
yeah,
to inform people. Because accelerating your success by itself is very generic.
yeah,
And, you know, a non-business audience also wants to accelerate their success. I mean, people who are athletes want to accelerate their success. People who are musicians or aspiring musicians want to accelerate their success. So that by itself is very generic. But if you can take that as your kind of brand and then have the subtitle be very specific to communicate with your audience, then I think that's going to
exactly.
be much more effective.
Yeah, that's my thinking. Where that also gives an indication there's a series of 4 books with each individual subtitles different. But the main title still be the same: Accelerating Your Success.
Let me ask you this: are you writing this book as part of your quote unquote 7 systems of influence, meaning you have a consulting business or some type of business that you want to use this book to drive sales for, or do you have another reason for writing this book?
No, that's exactly the reason for it, to get my name out there. But the major reason for that is to really to help people to create a successful company, especially between the $1 and $20 million revenue size. Those companies, they started by an entrepreneur. They know everything about one thing. Let's say, for example, maybe they are very good in developing a product, but they don't know anything else. Or they know a lot about sales and marketing, but they don't know anything else like finance and operations and leadership, etc. I have seen this over the last 22 years of my consulting and executive years. So, and I have done an extensive research of what really works and what is beneficial to executives. And I reduced it to 4 major elements. And I've implemented and I tried it myself a number of different times with the customers. And every time I tried those 4 techniques, those 4 stepping stones, if you will, the company has become very, very successful. Give you an example. I had one client coming to me about 3 years ago, and that client had $3 in a bank account. In other words, he was finished.
Okay.
So, and well, there was 2 owners, and they said, well, tell us how to dismantle the company. Maybe we still can get something out of it as well, let's look at it from a different perspective. What have you done? What have you done that makes you think that you're going to dismantle? So, make a long story short, I revitalized the company, and now they have over $1 million in the cash in the bank. And they just sent me a copy of their tax return. They have filed taxes. They paid $175,000 taxes. And that's all because they made some good profit. Now that's a big swing from having $3 in the bank account, being totally bankrupt, to paying a taxes of $175,000 because they made so much money, all in a matter of almost 3 years. So that success story, is duplicated a number of times over the last years using my success formulas of 4 major stepping stones. How to create a successful entity. I don't want to write some, like 20, 30, 40 different techniques. Nobody's going to read it. Nobody's going to apply it. Nobody's going to implement so many different steps. But if you reduce it to 4 very practical, relatively easy to implement steps, companies will be successful.
Okay, and what revenue channels do you currently have that you want to drive through being a published author? Is it primarily consulting, or do you do on-site training? Are you a public speaker?
Just consulting and executive coaching, executive management, coaching, and consulting.
Executive, okay. And do you want to expand that, or do you just want to enhance that?
No, I want to stay in that. I'm good in those areas, and I want to stay in that. Just want to get some more clients. Okay. And of course, with a higher fee, because once my name is out there by using that book, I have reasons to believe that I can also increase my fee substantially.
Oh, no, absolutely. And also, I'm assuming that it sounds like all your clients are mainly, you say 1 million to 20 million. They've been started with an entrepreneur, and they basically, now they're struggling how to scale their business.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. And so do you get into like outsourcing, human resources, hiring,
leadership, a lot of finance, a lot of financial management, but the KPI, the one book that's 1/4 of this whole stepping plan, talks about what do you measure, what's important, because if you don't measure, everything is important, and when everything is important, nothing becomes important. I've seen it every single time. There's a whole bunch of lists of important, high priority things that the owners have on their walls, pasted for everybody to see, and nothing is being implemented because it's just too much. If you have too many priorities, nothing becomes a priority. You know how that goes.
Right. Okay. So your book is really written for that creator entrepreneur who started something but doesn't know how to take it to the next level.
Yeah. How to scale it up, how to increase it, and how to sell it. Because most entrepreneurs, they create a company only for one purpose: to build something and to sell it for a huge amount. That's their motivation. That's their drive.
Okay. Well, I mean, this is good. I mean, obviously, people start businesses for all sorts of reasons. You're targeting the person who is looking for an exit strategy. They start a business that they want to sell.
But it's also geared for the hired CEO, not necessarily the entrepreneur. But if the company is already, let's say, $15-20 million, they usually start getting into the more sophisticated management. So they hire a CEO. Maybe it's family owned.
Okay.
And most CEOs at that level, in that size of companies, they fall in the same shoe size. They still struggle and how to really get the company going. Now, when you're talking about larger companies, like I had one company as a client with $600 million revenue, they're much more sophisticated. They're much more experienced. They can afford to have the expertise being hired. So but they still screw it up. Even big companies get screwed up. But the book is the series of 4 books is really geared for the small to mid-size entrepreneurs or hired gun or family-owned company.
Okay. All right. So So what questions do you have specifically about the book writing process and publishing, and or anything else related to content creation or marketing?
Well, the writing itself, I don't have much any problems. The big problem is marketing.
Okay. All right. Well, then you joined the right call, because the Justice call is more about, writing and finding editors and stuff like that. I probably know a little bit more about marketing. Uh, have you started marketing your book yet?
No,
Okay. Did you start the book writing process after you joined Josh's course?
yeah,
Okay. So you know that Josh said in the very early stages, you should start marketing your book right away.
right.
Okay.
I was afraid of that because I really wasn't quite sure which direction I should go with one book or 4 individual books. But I came to the conclusion 4 individual books is a much smarter idea.
Well, it is. It may be a much smarter idea, but marketing isn't about how many books you're going to write. Marketing is about branding yourself as an expert in a particular area,
Yeah, of course.
right? Right. So, other than your name, do you have a business that you
Yeah,
brand yourself as?
yeah.
And what's the name of your business?
It's called one, like the digit one, CFOcenter.com.
Okay.
Same as that's the website.
Okay. Are you on LinkedIn? Can I find you on LinkedIn?
Yeah.
All right. Let me try to find you on LinkedIn. So let me just start very briefly. When you start branding yourself and when you start marketing, uh, and especially since you are targeting a more of a business. All right, there's a lot of Eric Stoltz. Which one are you? Are you chief financial officer?
Yeah.
All right, so you're the first one, trusted advisor. All right, there you are. All right, okay. All right, Seton Hill Premier CFO Services. Your success is our mission. Okay. All right. So I'm going to share some kind of very general advice. Are you in front of a computer or a phone?
No, I was with a client this morning. I didn't have a chance to unpack it yet. I'm not in front of the computer.
Okay, because what I wanted to do is I wanted to share a screen and give you some ideas on how to start marketing your book and start branding yourself for the book that you're going to write. So why don't you log onto your computer and then log on? You can leave both the phone going and the computer going. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share a screen to give you some ideas on what you should start doing to start marketing your book. Because essentially you're almost done with the first book, but you haven't started any marketing.
Okay, so let's see here.
Yeah, just click that same link that came through Lori's email.
Yeah, I have to get at this thing here. Oh, jeez. Okay.
All right, there you are. Okay. So one of the things.
Recording in progress.
Yeah. Okay. So actually, if you want, you can shut off your phone if you think it's interfering.
Yeah.
As as long as you have audio, but now you need to turn on your microphone for your laptop. Nope, you're still muted.
Yeah, got it.
All right, there we go. Okay. So first of all, thank you for joining this call. Um, I think I have a good idea of what you're doing, of what you want to do. So you are a seasoned uh, CFO, chief financial officer, business strategist, a lot of consulting experience and helping companies and leaders reach a certain level. That's why you also do executive coaching.
Yeah.
So now that you want to write a book, writing a book is a completely different set of challenges and a completely different
Yes.
set of skills.
Yes.
There's two aspects to that. One is the writing, which you don't have that much trouble with. The other is the publishing, which Josh will help you with as you get further in the process and you start looking for editors and book cover designers and stuff like that. But the third and most important thing is marketing.
Yeah.
And this is where most people don't realize how much resources and energy it actually takes, not to just create a bestseller, but to be able to launch a book where people who you want to read your book actually know that you've written a book and want to buy that book.
Yeah.
All right. So uh, you're in a situation that I think you need to start. So if you're not sure about your title, that's one of the things you're going to have to really think deeply about. But what you want to do now, what is Seton Hill? Is that the name of your company?
No, I joined it. That's a consulting firm that I joined a few months ago.
Okay.
It's more or less like for some assignments.
Right. Right. Fractional CFO work and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Okay. Um, so and as long as you don't have any conflicts of interest with Seton Hill, uh, you should rebrand your online profile for the book that you want to write.
Okay.
All right. You also should start publishing stuff so you can start branding yourself as an author. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to give you some ideas. Okay.
Okay.
Very quickly, I'll give you just 30 seconds background of me. So, I am also from a business background. I've also done consulting. I've also been in leadership. I also do executive coaching. But my area of expertise is China. Okay. I spent 20 years living, working in China, both as an expat manager, as a consultant, as an instructor, and as an entrepreneur. So my expertise is China.
Okay.
So that's four things that I'm an expert in that I just named off. Let's say the four books that you are writing are the four things that you're an expert in.
Yeah.
They're all business related. All right. I'm going to share my screen and this just show you some ideas on how I'm branding, how I use social media to brand myself and to start building a target readers list and engagement with a potential audience. Okay. So this is your LinkedIn profile, right? Can you see that on your screen?
Yeah.
All right. So what I'm going to show you is this is my LinkedIn profile. Okay. So one of the things, and I don't know if you're active in the Facebook group, but one of the things that I've been helping people do is I've been helping people launch a podcast. And what I'm doing to build awareness around my area of expertise is I've created a podcast and it's called the China Myth Podcast. And it actually launches today. The first episode of that podcast launches today. Now, obviously, you may not want to launch a podcast, but I just want to show you how I'm branding what I'm doing on my social media. Okay. So the name of my podcast is China Myth Podcast. I also publish each episode separately as a short story on Kindle Vella Stories and Lessons. And I may need to change the font on this, but my tagline is demystify the Chinese why to create new communication patterns. So it's my opinion that leaders and consultants and managers who are working in China, they really need to understand how Chinese people think and why they think that way, and not focus on their behavior, but focus on our communication patterns. So if you lead Chinese employees and you have the same circular conversations over and over, that's a pattern that you can change, and I can help you to do that. Okay, so you can look at this. I used to have a very similar title as you, where I talked about being a manager or a consultant or whatever. Now I've changed my title just to the name of my podcast, China Myth Podcast, and then author, Solving China's Unknown Unknowns, and then speaker, trainer, China business advisor. Okay. Now what that does is when you go here and you look at my profile, this is what I want people to know. I want people to know about the China Myth Podcast. This is the thing that I'm promoting now. So I write that first. And then second of all, I'm an author. I'm an author of Solving China's Unknown Unknowns. And then beyond that, of course, I'm a speaker and I'm a trainer. I'm a China business advisor. So this is what I've done to brand my LinkedIn profile. Now, what else is important? Okay. When I make a comment and I start engaging with other people who have questions, if you look at this, when I make a comment, all right, let's see. When I make a comment, people can see on my title, when I make a comment, they see, number one, they see I'm an author. And number two, they see China Myth Podcast, author, Solving China's Unknown Unknowns. So anytime I make a comment on LinkedIn and I start engaging with somebody and presenting myself as an expert on China, they see what I'm promoting. Okay. And then if they go to my LinkedIn profile, this is the most important thing. They scroll down and this is what you're missing. This is the first thing that people look at is they look at the banner, they look at the photo, they look at the name, and they look at the title. And if they like what they see, because it's how you want to present yourself, then they start scrolling down and they see what items you have featured. Okay, so in your profile, you have 0 featured items. In mine, let's see what happens when I click this, the Chinese honeymoon period, Kindle Vella, Amazon. So when I click this, I go directly to Amazon Kindle Vella, where people can start reading my short stories. Oh. Okay, my short stories are called the Chinese honeymoon period, but the logo is still the China Myth logo. Yeah. All right. Now, when I click the second one, okay, the China Myth Podcast, it goes to a blog. So I'm going to change this soon. The podcast actually launched today. So now I'm going to change that link to where it'll just directly launch to where people can subscribe to the podcast. But before the podcast launched, I wrote a blog and people could listen to episode 1. They could read a little bit about what the podcast is and they could subscribe to it. So subscribe to the China Myth Podcast, scheduled to release on July the 21st. Subscribe on your favorite podcast. So you click this link and it goes to here. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, whatever. All right. So that was my LinkedIn profile.
Fantastic, but I don't know how to do all that.
You have a LinkedIn profile. You know how to. Yeah. Well, yeah. So what you need to do is you need to do a couple of things. You need to figure out how you want to brand yourself. Right now, you just got the name of the company that's hired that will give you fractional CFO work, but you want to brand yourself as an expert in those buckets of expertise that you're going to write four books about. All right. So the 4 books that you're going to write, if that area of expertise can fall under one single tagline, yes, then you need to figure out what that tagline is. And you want to start promoting yourself under that brand and under that tagline.
It's called accelerating your success.
Right.
I have a logo for that already.
Right. So so if you have the logo, so the first thing you want to do is you want to you want to update your LinkedIn profile, and Josh has tons of information. Josh used to be the expert on LinkedIn. I learned a lot of my stuff from Josh. So there's more resources in Josh's materials about LinkedIn. But the most important thing is the photo, the banner that people are going to see, and this title. Okay.
Okay.
If you are planning to publish your book, let's say your first book is going to be published in November.
Yeah.
Okay. You have essentially 4 months to build awareness for your book.
Okay.
And the way to do that for free, all right, that's a very important. There's several ways you can sell a book. You can pay to market your book, or you can do it organically through your own social media profiles. Okay, so right now, all we're talking about is the free audience building for your book. Okay, you should use LinkedIn because you're targeting primarily business people who are all on LinkedIn.
Right.
All right, so this banner should have something related to your book. Whatever you have here should be related to your expertise. It doesn't have to be this. It could also be a picture of you speaking in front of an audience. It could be a picture of you with a client, and it's a nice photo with you and the client, and you're giving some executive coaching. You have to figure out what image best represents the image that you want to portray to people who are visiting your profile for the very first time. And you want to make sure this title here tells them exactly what you want them to know. So for me, I launched a podcast today. It's called the China Myth Podcast. So I have this first. I'm also an author, Solving China's Unknown Unknowns. I have that second. And then what else am I? I'm a speaker, I'm a trainer, I'm a China business advisor. This is more of my business side of the services that you offer, executive coaching or whatever. That's towards the end. But I want to make sure these several words appear on every comment that I make when I engage with people on LinkedIn. All right. So just to go down the list, you can see here, this is my Facebook profile. It looks exactly the same, very consistent. This is the Facebook group that I run. So I don't know if you want to launch a mastermind community or if you want to.
Oh gosh.
No, but so I have a Facebook group. So this is my Amazon. When people go to Kindle Vella, you saw this. I have 6 episodes already published on Kindle Vella. This is my Amazon profile. So I've already published 2 soft cover workbooks that coincide with my course. So I know you do executive training, you do consulting. The question is, do you do any training where you go on site and you train leaders of, you train line managers and leaders of certain larger organizations where they need some type of leadership training? If you have training for that and some of it's unique to your area of expertise and you're not just taking some generic training and giving it to your clients, then you can also think about publishing it here, because getting a soft cover book published on Amazon or Amazon Kindle is very, very easy. Getting a hardcover book published ready for distribution, where you need a cover designer and then you need an editor and you need all this stuff, that's a little bit harder. So depends on which route you want to take. You want to go directly to the full published version where you have cover designers and editors and all of that stuff, or do you want to self-publish on Amazon before you get to that step? That's up to you. My YouTube channel, I don't know if you have any YouTube, but my YouTube channel also is branded the exact same way. My podcast, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Twitter, all looks the same. All right, so the point is if you're already almost 70% finished with your book and you haven't started to promote it, when the book publishes, nobody's going to buy it.
Nobody knows about it.
Nobody knows about it. Okay. So what you want to do is you want to try to develop kind of an SOP, a weekly SOP.
Okay.
And what does that mean? That means you have to make a commitment that once every week, you're going to publish a LinkedIn article or a
Okay.
LinkedIn blog.
Yeah.
If you don't have a personal website, then you can just do it on LinkedIn, where you can just write an article on LinkedIn. And you want to begin sharing some valuable insights, expertise, tips about what it is you can help
Yeah.
a leader or an
Some
entrepreneur
little
do.
abstracts from book.
Yeah, it doesn't actually have to be abstract. It can be very specific. It needs to, what you don't need to worry about is you don't need to worry about people stealing your content or copying your stuff. What you want to do is you want to try to deliver value as you're serving the community. Think of the LinkedIn community as a group of people that you're there to serve, like a servant leader. And you just want to give them different aspects of your expertise to help them solve very specific problems in
Right.
their daily life as an entrepreneur, in their daily life as a consultant, in their daily life of designing a project and they don't know how to measure success. Whatever it is, you want to start blogging or writing about that, because when
Well,
you
I've done that before we had this COVID mess a year and a half ago. I wrote newsletters every week to my Houston-based audience, which I have about a couple of thousand people on my list. And I talked about in each one of those newsletters very specific issues like cash flow problem, inventory problem, people problem, with a solution. So one pager, easy to read, right down to a practice. So what is the issue, and here's what works.
that's
So
perfect.
I had done that for about I have 50 newsletters I had out there. But then, of course, the pandemic hit us and everything just came to a crashing halt.
So that's perfect. So if you've already got a lot of that stuff written,
Yeah.
it shouldn't take you long to repurpose it. So you could commit to releasing one article per week on LinkedIn. Release
Post
it, post it. So what you would do is you would just go to LinkedIn. All right. Okay, I'm not sharing the screen anymore. Let me just show you real quick. All right. All right. So you go to here and you just go to LinkedIn and you say, write an article.
Yeah.
All right. And you basically write an article. So if you go to my LinkedIn profile, you see my activities. All right. And then you can go to my articles and you can see, so these are the articles that I published.
Oh, nice.
Right. So you need to create an SOP for yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then, there's a lot of things that you need to do. Number one is you need to create an SOP. Number two, you need to create a marketing blueprint. Okay, but let's just make your marketing blueprint. So let's just make it really simple right now. Every Monday morning at 7 a.m. or 10 a.m. or whatever time you want, you're going to publish one article on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Okay, and then the marketing blueprint is after you publish that article, you're going to tag at least one person that you know in the comments. For example, the client that had $3 in his pocket and now he has over $1 million in revenue. If you write an article that is somehow related to how you help that person, you would publish that article, and then in the comments, you would tag that person. Let's just say that person's name is Bill. You would say, hey, Bill, check out this article. I think we were able to use some of these things to help you turn your business around. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Because the goal is to get engagement on your post and your content. So that's an SOP. Every week, Monday morning, publish an article.
How many do I notify? I mean, I have on my LinkedIn profile, I got 15,000 followers.
Yeah. So yes. So you got 15,000 followers. 14,000 of those people are probably garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah. So What you want to do is you just want to tag one, at the most two people on each article. Okay. And you don't
Okay.
want to tag them. You want to just tag them in the comment section, because you want to connect with people that you've either helped before or somebody you're connected with who recognizes your expertise, and they can help you. They can help your article get more comments and more engagement, because
I see.
once you tag somebody and if they reply to your article, like Bill, if he says, oh yeah, you really helped me out. I was broke and then I'd use your method and I was able to do this. Okay. That will circulate in the LinkedIn algorithm, and your article will start going to more of your 14,000 people. And if it has good marketing copy, which is like a good title, then more people will read it and hopefully more people will comment on it. And then you start building that audience and building that engagement like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is where I suggest you start.
Okay.
Update your LinkedIn profile. Well, first of all, come up with a brand and a tagline on how you want to brand yourself.
Yeah.
Update your LinkedIn profile. Josh has all the information in there. Create an SOP. Publish one article. I mean, you got 50. Publish twice a week, but whatever it is, create an SOP and follow it. Publish once or twice a week on every Monday, every Thursday, or just every Monday. And then your marketing blueprint. Your marketing blueprint in the short term is organic. That means we're not going to pay for any advertising.
Yeah.
Only thing you want to do is every article you publish, you want to tag one or two people in the comments just to drive the conversation.
Got it.
Because the goal is, what do people think of your expertise? And if they start asking more questions and you're able to deliver more value, then you're going to start being recognized, first of all, to your 14,000 followers or connections, and then to the wider LinkedIn community at large, that you, Eric Stoltz, is an expert on this. But first of all, you need to know what you're an expert in.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
marketing. You got to brand yourself as an expert in helping a very specific small group of people solve a very specific problem. And that's what you need to do. So I need to get off this call. It's 10 o'clock. I have another Zoom meeting right at 10. So whatever questions you have, just post them in the Facebook group and I'll give you more details and more guidance in the Facebook community.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Gene. Appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
Yep. Bye-bye.